So hello everybody, my name is Tom and it's been a while since I made one of these kinds of videos, but just something I've been thinking about a lot lately is your basic tarp setup and just ways of making it easier. And of course, even during the summer, I can see the weather's after changing, we can still get showers. But even if I had my tent up, if you had one of your kids out, or if you're out with your partner or your wife or your husband, whatever floats your boat and you're out, something great to have up over your tent is a tarp. And if it does rain, you can still leave out bags, you can still leave out boots. You're not trying to get in and out of the tent in the rain, dragging in all that wet and dirt, and you can leave your boots out. It just makes a bit more room in your tent. And of course, a 3x3 tarp is just perfect for when you're out and about. And of course, the way I like to sort of set it up is guidelines at the bottom, tarp, ridge line at the top, last in, first out. And of course, you gotta always make sure you have at least minimum 3 meters between your trees, especially if your tarp is 3x3. I guess it just only makes sense. And I have this folded up in such a neat way. And what we're going to do is look at, I believe, 5 different methods of tying on your first loop, or your knot, or your hitch, or whatever you want to call it. And we're going to start on this gorgeous sycamore tree right here. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to start with a nice good height. You don't want to ever start too low, because all that happens is you're crouching, trying to get in and out. And the first loop we're going to start with is one called the event hitch. And this is the one all the bushcrafters and all the outdoors people like to use. And it is actually very simple. And of course, we'll call it the short end on the right hand side. And there are different names for like a bite of line in the working end, but we're just going to stick to simple terms right now. And of course we have here the short end, and what we can do is just wrap it around your fingers and bring it under the long part, the ridge pole, or you could say the ridge line that's going to run across from tree to tree. Or if you want to just bring it under, and this is the short end, twist it and reach through, grab a little bite of that, and on the far side just pull that tight. And the one great benefit of this is it's quick release. So once more, just wrap it around your fingers and bring it across. It always reminds me of a fish, and you can see it has that shape there. There's the tail, there's the body, and you're going to bring it under your line, past the bit of the tail, through the body, and pull tight, and just push it back, and there you go. That will hold. That is the most famous of them all, the celebrated one. And of course, you see a bit of a blue sky. It's actually the rain coming down, and the weather has been fantastic lately. And even though I have been out camping and stuff, I still had my tarp up over my tent just in case. So this is a really, really easy way. And basically taking your line, a little short end, just do an overhand knot, a basic knot where you fold it and basically tie a knot in it and pull that tight. And all you have to do then is wrap it around the tree, put it through it, drag it through the whole way if you want to do it like that. And of course I have some prusik lines on that. We'll take a look at that later. And you can see the other thing is knots. When you put knots in it, some knots can be harder to open, but they're all openable. And there you have it. And that will hold also. And using this loop, you can actually do 2 more kinds of fixtures. And so there we have that. And of course we can run our line across to the far side. It's a great time of the year to be out, and I would encourage everybody to be out always, all year round. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick to this little overhand loop knot. And as you've seen already, we can pass one through, run it across. The only thing is, if you have a really long line, you're putting a lot of line through, then you have to take it all the way back. But another easy way of doing that is just to pass this through, pass the long part into your loop. Just pass it through it, and I use a little stick like this, and what it'll do, it'll actually hold, and that will hold perfectly. And the reason I have this on here, because if you let it loose and it slips down and you're trying to tie it up in the far side, the stick will just fall out and you're coming back again. But this just holds it up, and when ready to take it out, it just pops out. And we're going to take a super close up of that. So as I was saying, you have your loop, you pass the long part, basically the ridge line part, just pass it in through the loop and it forms a little piece inside. And use this, put that through, and there you could actually see it will self-lock on itself. Okay? Perfection. And the great thing is, it's what happens is, if you loosen your line on the far side and then you bring it across, at least if the stick comes down, it stays locked inside here, and you can easily run that to the far side now for your ridge line. And we'll have a look at one more that you can do to make life easy. So we're actually going to stay at this angle here, nice and simple. And something you can use, very simple, if you have a carabiner, a spare carabiner. You can see where this is going already, I'm sure. And you're just going to lock it in, and of course you just lock it in, and that really is it. And you see your overhand loop coming into your, and just run that to the far side. And what we'll do is we'll take a look on the far side and see what you do from there. We're going to leave the carabiner on this one. Alright, I just changed the angle just to make it look good. But something that a lot of people also like to use is one called the timber hitch. And we have the short little end here. I'm going to pass it under and bring it back on itself. And of course, don't forget the height. And all you have to do really is wrap it around a few times. Enough of times that eventually there's enough on them to basically hold. And this is called a timber hitch, and it's a great way of if you want to transport a couple of lads and stuff and start off. And you can see already that holds great. And you can pull that. And you can see there's your timber hitch, and it's very easy then to unfold. And the one great thing, you don't want to be cutting your cordage. Cordage is very valuable. It's one of the things that I love cordage, but I hate having to cut it. Oh, I'd rather use it way too long and have to cut it to the right length. And basically, once you fold it back around, fold it around a few times. And this is a very easy one if you're only beginning. But if you can get the event hitch, it's all about just practice. And there you go. And that will hold perfectly tight. And now you can run it across to the opposite tree. It's great. A good indicator about how much line you need from tree to tree. What I like to do is arm's width, and you're going to count out. If you have a big roll of paracord, so you're going to grab the end of it and stretch it out. And I think if you have at least minimum 4 good arm stretches, if not 5, just go for the 5. Better be looking at it and looking for it. And of course, for this one, this ridge line is up nice and high. And you can see I'm starting to run short here, but that's okay. I'm going to always pull it tight and bring it around. I bring it around on itself. And all I have to do is pull that tight. You can see the strength. And this is what I mean about keeping your line nice and long. And just tie it off at the end for now. Just a little overhand knot on that. And I'm going to put it double so it'll look like a little prusik. Just tie it off, and if you have enough of line, pull it tight, loop it back around, pull it tight again on it, and just all your excess line, wrap it around the tree enough at times, and it'll nearly just tie it off onto your ridge line, and it will nearly just basically self-hold. And these are, we'll have a little look at these, so what their job actually is. And a lot of people already know these. So we're looking up at our ridge line. Something we like to use is basically, and this one just got a little bit modified, but just a loop of cordage. And when you open it up, pass it back in on itself twice and neat it up, that it gotta look neat once it's finished, like a cat's paw, as they say. And this is a prusik loop. And the advantage of the prusik loop, and climbers even use this, is that when you put pressure on it, it'll hold, then easily you can move it up and back. And this can create extra tension on your tarp when you use the two outside loops. Pull it tight, and of course just pass this through the loop on the edge, put a stick through it to hold. Don't worry about knots, and pull that tight, and it'll keep it opened up for you. So let's take a look at that. So now that I have my tarp, I have my ridge line set up. Keep your loops, keep your prusik loops pushed out to the edge till you're ready to use them. And it's so easy, but it's great. And if you're ever wondering about just finding the center, a lot of them, most tarps have a seam running from edge to edge through the center. So now you know if this is the type of setup that you want, just have that seam with that loop up on top of your ridge line. And of course, some people actually like to pass your ridge line in through all of the loops on your tarp. You can also do that if you want. So I know that this is my centerpiece because the seam is right here. And all I have to do is bring in my prusik loop, pass it in through, get a little stick. It does not have to be a very big thick stick, even anything like that. Put that in there, pull that, and that will hold. And now I can go to the other end and repeat the exact same process. And of course, once you bring it out and you don't want it sliding back, this is where your prusik loop, bring it on up, give yourself enough of room, don't be afraid. Pass it in through, use a stick, and you can see this is just a big dead stick, but it doesn't even have to be that thick. Pull that tight, and that will hold. And we're going to take a look at what it looks like so far. So, pulling out the lines, and of course you have it all. Now you are ready to tie out your corners. And of course there's many setups for the way you could do this. You could have one straight up, one straight to the ground. You can have just like an A-frame, a lean-to. It's up to you, depending on your situation and of course on your environment. And of course you can have your tarp underneath, or your hammock underneath, or you can just have your tent underneath, which I actually do. Not at the moment, but usually if I did have my tent, I just put the tarp up over it. The extra bit of comfort, it's actually worth it. Just like your last in, your first out. So first in, last out. And I have these guidelines, and they're reflective guidelines. And of course, if you cannot remember how to do the Siberian hitch, all you have to do is, or the evenk, sorry, as some people call it, do your overhand loop. You pass through just a little bit and do the exact same thing. This is very easy. And you can see this skinny stick. I'm just going to break a bit off that. Pass this up. Pass this through. Put it through the loop. Put the stick through it. and pull. Remember, it really does not have to be complicated. And anybody, of course I could tie it out to that tree, but I believe that when you're tying out your tarp, you want to be going from corner to corner, like the other corner is over there, so keep it in that angle and you'll have a nice even setup. So now this brings us to our tent pegs, and if you want, you can always cut out a little notch for yourself where you can see it will hook in. And if you don't do that, that is a-okay also. You can just have one like this, and as you see, this will also, when you hammer in your tent peg, and using these little homemade mallets, great for classes, people love to use them. So what you got to do is don't, instead of hammering it dead straight down, go with the force, go with the angle. If you put it this way, you can see the pressure could pull it out. You go against it, and a guideline or self-tightening. And look at this one, and here's the difference in tent pegs you got to be careful of. So you see one, and I'm going to pull this back out of the ground, and here you see that the force, all the force shall run down, all the pressure shall run down to the center piece. This is safe. When you pick wide pieces like this, and if you have to hit it like this, there's a massive chance that one of these is going to break off and it becomes a worthless tent peg. Better off just to cut it there, hammer it in. And if you don't have a notch and you don't have little pieces like this, and you didn't cut it like that, what you could do is just put it in at an angle, a good angle like that. And in soft ground, long tent pegs. And you can see, and push the line right down to the ground, and therefore it decreases unnecessary pressure on it, and you have some perfectly good tent pegs. And of course this one, I'd rather just push this in the ground, but you're not going to get very far, because really you go to hammer that, you can see it's going to snap. So it's always worth having good tent pegs, making good tent pegs. Hazel is a fantastic choice. Willow, a little bit soft. Just something small but very necessary when it comes to your guy lines. And your guy lines have different kinds. This is a little plastic piece, some have little metal pieces, but they all serve the same function. And really what they're for is, you can loosen or tighten up your cordage, or your guy line, your tent line, if some people call them. And these are very misunderstood at times, but these are fantastic and very functional. And you can see loosens, and you just pull it back down along the line, and then when you pull it tight, it holds, and it's just something to always be noticeable of. So now that you got your tarp all set up, something that's very handy to use is a little Y stick like this. You don't even need to stick it in the ground, just prop up your end if you want a bit of extra height on it, and it will naturally hold. You don't even really need to stick it in the ground. And there is a nice little setup. So let's take a look at that from another angle. That is perfect. So there you have it. Some very easy knots, some very easy ways of setting up your tarp. And of course, if your tent was underneath here and your door was coming out there, you can still leave your boots and your bags and everything outside, and the rain comes down, just runs off. You have all of that extra comfort. Don't be afraid to spoil yourself. You're definitely worth it. And of course, if you have your hammock, you have to have your tarp, just in case. Lovely. Hello.